Now, in a fast-changing, technologically driven world, the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has come up with some legacy projects that could potentially make a big difference if properly implemented and maintained. Today, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, announced the Nigeria Global Citizens Help Desk, a contact center which Nigerians anywhere in the world can use to reach the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and all its international missions through calls, chat, email or instant messaging 24 hours a day. He also unveiled the Nigeria Global Business Match, an online marketplace matchmaking portal where verified local businesses in Nigeria can be matched with verified businesses abroad. And Mr. Onyeama also announced a third project called the Unified Online Presence, where the ministry has unified all the websites of its 109 missions and headquarters in one secure web space. All this, of course, taking place with less than a fortnight to go before the Buhari administration has to go. So, why now?
I felt that these were very important projects that would really define, in a way, the 8 years and the vision of Mr. President for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the first one is the Nigerian Global Business Match. And this is really in the framework of our economic diplomacy initiative. And essentially what it is a market access tool for Nigerian business people to be able to access foreign markets more easily and without all the red tape, and also for foreign businesses to be able to access the Nigerian market, and also for the businesses, Nigerian businesses and foreign businesses, to be able to meet each other and forge business relationships.
The Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama, there. And of course, for the last 8 years, as I mentioned, Geoffrey Onyeama has held that great office of state, which makes him Nigeria's longest-serving foreign minister under a democratic dispensation. So in that time, how has he adapted Nigeria's evolving interest to the prevailing global geopolitical winds? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyeama. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me again.
Lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's begin with the present. I mean, you've got less than 2 weeks to go in office, and you've unveiled a number of legacy projects today, including the Nigeria Global Citizens Help Desk, the Nigeria Global Business Match, and the Unified Online Presence. Tell us about these projects and their significance.
Yeah, the Business Match project is extremely important. It was one that I conceived actually when I started in the ministry, and we should have finished it about 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. We had actually done a pre-launch, but we ran into some problems and then had to start all over again. Now, the significance is it's a marketplace, credible marketplace, and so that Nigerians, we're just the most entrepreneurial people on earth, you know, without all the red tape and all the obstacles, can access foreign markets, can upload their businesses, you know, and make it, you know, available in terms of, you know, knowledge to the outside world. Now, and then also for foreign business people to be able to go up there and look for Nigerian business partners. Now, we, you know, the way I looked at it, we have 109 a presence, physical presence. That was the comparative advantage that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has. Physical presence in about 109 countries around the world. So you train a trade officer in those countries, they will reach out within their own sphere, the country in which they are in, to the chambers of commerce, to the retail association and others, and sensitize them on the existence of this portal, and of course they will get their businesses, to go there. They will see other, Nigerian businesses and individuals have uploaded their things there, and then an opportunity to match and then take it on from there and do business. Extremely significant. The other one is citizens diplomacy, really. Since we've been there for 8 years, it's been one crisis or the other. Libya, trafficking, human trafficking, and so on and so forth. Again, Nigerians in the diaspora, there's so many Nigerians out there. And how can we support them when they're faced with, difficulties or whatever, or they need information? People say, yes, go to the Nigerian embassies there or Nigerian missions, and so forth. But, we want to also empower them in a way. And so we've set up this help desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the help desk is there, and people trained to receive whatever message or provide information, and can escalate it. And we've categorized it, those are human trafficking, general information, refugees or whatever, And so these are real game changers as far as we're concerned. If we can now build on those, they're really extremely important. The other one is just a unified web presence. So you can just go onto the website, one website, and all the 109 missions there, you can get theirs there, so you don't have a lot of these fake websites and things like this, and it's sort of more seamless and transparent, and very important in terms of providing information and and engaging.
Yes, and providing original information that is obviously, and I think it's, what I find quite important about it is, particularly the business one, is that it has the imprimatur of the Nigerian government.
Precisely.
And that means that whoever is going in there knows that this is totally above board.
Exactly, because of course the whole 419...
absolutely.
And we have a very rigorous mechanism to be able to upload. You have to go through the Corporate Affairs Commission, and you've paid your taxes, so you're a legitimate business entity.
You're verified.
Verified is precisely the word.
And as I said, it sounds like they're very good ideas, particularly the business one, but also the one about the global sort of citizens help desk, because oftentimes there is that complaint that they don't know where to go, or something's happened and so on. Or
the embassies are not being very responsive or very helpful, so they can even complain, and these are going to be escalated.
I think it's a very good idea.
And partnering us in that are all the different agencies as well, so NDLEA, NAPTEP or whatever, so police, so they're all part of the architecture for that.
Yeah, it sounds very good. And but as you said, this is coming less than 2 weeks before you go. That doesn't make it any less important, but people would ask, well, you've been there for 8 years. Why is it just coming now?
Absolutely. Well, I explained that to you. We started it fairly early, I think about 2 years in. And we ran into some problems. We had a team that was working on it, and there were some issues, legal and others. And so we had to start with a fresh team, actually. And that set us back 3-4 years. So we wanted to have it done before we finished, and a lot of work has really gone into it. And today at the launch, we were able to, and especially the project manager, to just show how we did a live business match, so we've really taken care of all the areas that need taken care of. So and then it's a public, the business match one, we're making it a public-private sector initiative. We have the Ministry of Trade also on board, and there are some private entities that actually want to buy it because they can see, when you think about it, the revenue stream, the possible revenue stream there can be enormous, enormous. So, you know,
so people
that's
pay to go onto that portal?
Well, we're not charging at the moment, you see, because of course, you know, sort of government controlled, but, you know...
it potentially could be.
Yes, when we presented it to the Ministry of Trade some years back and others, they said, look, listen, you know, the government can actually let, you know, take their hands off, you know, provide some of the support and just let it go private. And it'll make it even more sustainable in the eyes of some people.
Yeah, of course, you won't be around to oversee it.
And I shouldn't be. You know, this is something
run with itself.
For the government, and it's something we provided for the people of Nigeria, really. And, you know, in terms of job creation, you know, it can actually do wonders. And, you know, and a dimension that we haven't sort of, you know, emphasized so much is Nigerians can also upload their skill set and things, you know, so people outside the country might want to recruit those particular Nigerians and things. And then also Nigerians in the diaspora who want to come back home can also upload, you know, their skill set, and so making it also an employment agency hub.
Well, that's very interesting. Can I turn to a question that is easy to ask, but I would imagine difficult to answer? What, in your view, does it take to be a great Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs?
Oh, that's a difficult one, and I would always say that that's really one for others to decide. You know, it's like beauty. Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. You know, so one man's meat is another man's poison. One man's priority is another man's whatever. But well, you know, you look at the job itself. What does the job entail? And then you can actually try to answer the question from there. The job entails you to be dealing with different countries, different cultures, different political outlooks and ideologies, you know, at the bilateral level. So you need to be, one, a good communicator, have good interpersonal skills, and have a good background knowledge of countries, geographies, you know, the political histories of those countries, current affairs, you know. You're also, so at the bilateral level, you know, and I think you need to be affable, you know, and likable, because you're very often going to want to be able to reach these officials of other countries to ask for favors, to vote for your candidate, or whatever, you know. And sometimes it's your personal relations that can actually make the difference. Then, you know, there's a multilateral aspect, you know, where you're attending different meetings in different fora, you know. Some of them are, you know, could be on chemical weapons issues. You got so many different areas, more political issues, and so forth, you know. So you also need to be good and have the capacity to grasp a lot of different subject matters fairly quickly.
Absolutely.
And you know, and you have to be rigorous in you know, reading your briefs and, you know, being able to understand and absorb it very quickly, and present it in a simple manner. You know, if you can speak different languages, it also helps.
I was actually going to ask you that. I was going to say, do you see a foreign minister being able to speak foreign languages as a key skill for the job? Because, I mean, you speak not just English fluently, but German, French, and I believe Spanish as well.
Well, not really Spanish, no. No. But, and my German is pretty lousy, as I don't actually have much. I should have learned Spanish instead of German, to tell you the truth. He would have, you know.
Well, you've got a bigger audience with Spanish, haven't you?
Absolutely. But if you speak English, I think that's probably 3/4 of it, if not, I mean, with English, I mean, a lot of countries probably don't like to accept the fact, but the reality is that English has really become the lingua franca of the world.
Yeah, it is.
So I think as far as Nigeria is concerned, any
but it helps that you can speak French and a smattering of German.
Yeah, it helps, of course. It helps. Yeah, it helps because, of course, it always helps. Communication is key.
Absolutely. And how challenging has it been having to look out at the wider world, yet staying connected to Nigerian politics?
As Foreign Minister, the two go together. The two go absolutely together, because ultimately your foreign policies
are driven by that.
Yeah, your national interests, your national priorities, and the situation of your country. So, for instance, the fact that we've been fighting insurgents, because I saw in the trailer, where you were talking about Nigeria and being a big power, or not. The reality is that when you're not strong at home, and you have all these security issues, drain on your resources, instead of producing 2.2 million barrels a day of oil, which you should be doing, you're producing 1 million, and just that amount of revenue that you're losing, you are constrained in how ambitious in many areas your foreign policy can be, because you just have so many challenges at home that you have to be focused on. And we spent a lot of time on the security, just even in dealing with foreign countries, on getting support, to fight terrorism and insurgency in our country. Yeah.
So would you say that Nigeria, the influence of the Minister of Foreign Affairs has been constrained by that diminishing role in the world, with a shrinking economy, rising insecurity, and so on?
Let's put it this way. If we were as rich as we should be, we are going to have the wherewithal and the resources to project our power more effectively. In the sub-region, on the continent, with elections, we did a pretty good job, in the last 8 years, that a lot of people don't see. And, we still have that stature as a country. And I can give you some examples if you want.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, Guinea-Bissau was teetering on the brink. We were chairing ECOWAS at the time. Mr. President was sending me shuttle diplomacy to that country, must be about 8 or 9 or 10 times, We had the resources, we gave them equipment to carry out, their elections. Without it, there were going to be no elections in the legislative and up to the presidential. It was Nigeria. We imported a lot of the equipment. INEC helped us, and then we had to read the Riot Act to them, even to their INEC, their own independent electoral commission, when things looked as if they were going to fall apart. We had the resources. Well, it's a small country, but we were able to impose ourselves in the Gambia. Mr. President, summoned, and I say summoned because they didn't know. There was a meeting that was taking place in Mali at the time, a briefing on some ECOWAS meeting, and he asked a few countries, heads of state, gave them 2 days' notice to come to Abuja. He invited them for lunch and, discussing the situation in the Gambia. And then he called the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff. Nobody knew where he was going. And the Chief of Defense Staff was brought and came there where he was having lunch and entertaining heads of state. And he said to him, look, get in touch with your counterparts in Ghana, Senegal, and I think it was either Sierra Leone or one other country, and told them to mobilize sea, air, and ground troops and move to the Gambia. We had the resources to do that because it wasn't very easy, and they moved. The Navy moved things, And then they buzzed, the Air Force buzzed Banjul, the Gambian capital. And this guy gave up. Jammeh knew that the game was up, and because he really thought he could ride out the storm, you know. And so those were, you know, areas. And then, you know, like what's happening now in the Sudan, there's IGAD. IGAD is a grouping, an intergovernmental authority on development of the East African and Horn of Africa countries. So you have IGAD Plus. So Nigeria is not part of IGAD, but IGAD Plus. They want Nigeria to be part. And Mr. President, you know, attended summit meetings a few years back on IGAD, trying to address the issues of Somalia and all these other countries. And at the ministerial level and at the presidential level. And, you know, we had a voice in shaping how things were evolving in those countries. We sent policemen. We have a police contingent in Somalia, you know, for instance. So if we had the resources that we had maybe in the days of, you know, Murtala Mohammed,
yeah,
when they
the
were fighting
1970s,
in Angola,
yeah,
and all that,
yeah,
you know, we'll be able to
apartheid South Africa.
Exactly,
and so on.
we'll
Yeah.
be able to do a lot more. And you know, for instance, I remember in at the AU, there was a deadlock. At the meeting of the ministers, we're preparing for the heads of state meeting. And the deadlock was created by Morocco and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, Western Sahara. And they would not agree on this document on peace and security and what the AU, certain proposals for intervention in the crisis there. And there was a complete breakdown, and it was clear that the AU summit would not be able to take place because the report could not be adopted at the ministerial level. And no solution could be found. And you know, at the end, the Moroccan team, led by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, they came to where we were sitting to ask me, say that they'd be ready for me to mediate, for Nigeria to mediate. The Sahrawis came also. So there are 54 countries also came. Now, you know, it's almost a no-win situation. And I said yes, that we would do it. It was already about 7 p.m. at night. You know, the meeting had been dragging on the whole day. And the heads of state were supposed to start coming the next day. And it looked as if there was no meeting, you know. So I agreed. Everybody felt sorry for me, the Nigerian team, because they didn't see how this thing could be solved. But, you know, we met with them separately and everything, you know, and we came up with a solution that they both bought into. And, but as I said, they came to Nigeria because this is, you know, the country that they felt could deliver on this. And the next day, people couldn't believe that we had been able to find this solution. So if we had more resources, we would be able to do even more of that because these countries look to Nigeria.
Yeah, that makes
already.
a lot of sense. And also, I think during this time, truth be told, that there's been a lot of work done in improving Nigeria's rescue capacity. I don't remember it being quite as efficient as it has been, although some would argue that it is still an evolving process. But there's been quite a lot of evacuations and that kind of thing taking place.
Yeah, you know, people also take a lot for granted. You know, if in the US, if you're not working for the US government and you're being evacuated by the US from anywhere, you have to pay for it. Dollars and cents you have to pay. And we saw this during the COVID crisis.
The British did that to everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now, let me tell you, there was some, during the World Cup in Russia, you know, there was a scam that they were playing because the Russians said that if you had a ticket to any match, because they provided tickets to all the countries that were taking part to their national football, whatever, thousands and thousands of tickets. If you had bought tickets for any of the matches, you get an automatic visa into Russia. So Nigeria being Nigeria, they now had a scam where they were now giving those tickets to would-be illegal migrants. not football fans, you know, and selling these things to them. Now, of course, you had to have a return ticket. So there was also a scam with airline travel agents to give you dummy return things, you know. And so you had all these people going to Russia who had no intentions of going to watch football matches. And they got to Russia, obviously not knowing, you know, the lie of the land, thinking, you know, it was like getting into Italy and moving to the rest of Western Europe, calling their people, you know. And of course, they saw that, you know, Russia is not a country you can just move to the borders and then cross over illegally. And they're all stuck there. So what do they all do? Nigerians being Nigerians, they go and camp outside the Nigerian embassy in Moscow, creating a complete nuisance of themselves, you know. Mr. President approved that we send, it cost over $1 million to go and bring them back. You know, I went to the airport to receive them, and they all thought it was a big joke. As they all coming down the train, you even saw some, you know, pregnant women with children who clearly were not going to watch any football match. And then you had all that in Libya, you know, of course, the president evacuated a huge number of them, but a lot of them have also gone back. We saw also in Ukraine, and then even apart from that, they're the ones you don't even see. Like in India, you know, we had to go and evacuate some people there. In the UAE, illegal deportees who didn't want to come back. In Ethiopia, prisoners who were there in prison, and not charging a penny to any of them. But yet, you know, people are saying, oh, you know, you didn't intervene fast enough, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And, you know, this is what the government is doing for Nigerians without charging anybody.
Well, I'm glad you shared some of this with us, because I think it's quite important for people to know some of these things. Maybe the government is also to blame because they don't kind of tell people about it.
Well, we do, but it's just that people generally want to hear and retain what they want to hear and retain.
They're usually skeptical about everything that's being done.
Because like the Russian one, we were at the airport to receive them. I told you, you know, I was very angry, you know, because they thought it was a big joke, you know, as they were coming down the stairs of the plane and things like that. We had a, you know, press conference, as we do very often, together with IOM, and we're just bringing people back. But as I said, people, sometimes there might be an agenda, sometimes people just don't want to see anything good that the government is doing.
Yeah, that is true. And you have met and interacted with so many world leaders and global figures in those 8 years, from US presidents, European and African leaders, world-class royalty such as King Charles, whose recent coronation you attended. I mean, who has stood out for you in those years? Who do you get along with the most and the least?
Well, you know, one thing I must say that I find very interesting actually is that, you know, when you're looking from outside, very often at a lot of these, especially like presidents and things like that, you form an image or even an opinion of a lot of them, you know, the ones you like, the ones you don't like, according to sometimes what's written about them. But, you know, I was very, very surprised that they are all actually very nice people. You know, when you meet them, you know, one-on-one, two-on-one, two-on-two.
We'll just break a few legs now and again, but, we'll
I mean,
all smile at...
But honestly, I mean, just, you know, at the interpersonal level, you know, they're all, you know, very, very personable and very friendly. And I think, you know, it's, you know, first of all, because of Mr. President, you know, one thing Nigerians actually don't appreciate is, and I was telling you that one of the qualities that I think you need as a foreign minister, and I think also as a leader, is to be likable, you know, and the president is very much liked by his peers and his colleagues, and they are keen to invite him. So, for instance, you know, Prince Charles, when he was Prince, King Charles, when he was Prince Charles, you know, invited Mr. President to Scotland for tea, you know, and we went with the Chief of Staff and accompanied Mr. President, and, you know, and just sat down talking about different issues and things like that. But but you have to have a certain respect for somebody, and also, you know, a certain level of affection also to do that. It wasn't your office, it was, you know, like to your home, and not just your home as an official Buckingham Palace, London, but, you know, in Scotland. And we've seen that, and I've experienced that, you know, with him. And they've all been very, very nice. Even with Trump, you know, Trump was, we saw a side of him. He invited Mr. President. He was very jovial, you know, with Mr. President. So,
although he was quoted as saying not very nice things later on.
Well, okay, but while we were there,
Yeah.
you know, he was, you know, is very, very warm. And don't forget, he had called Mr. President when he was having treatment at the time, and made promises to him that the predecessors, Obama, refused to make, supplying arms to Nigeria. Trump told him, we're going to get you those weapons, and they delivered.
And they did, yeah.
You know.
Well, we've just got a minute or so left. It's been fascinating talking with you. What are you going to do after you leave office, having been in the job for the last 8 years? I mean, do you have political ambitions? Are you going into business? Or are you just going to quietly retire?
You know what I'm going to do? Somebody gave me that idea, and I agreed fully. I'm just going to turn off my alarm clock.
I like that. And that's a good start.
Absolutely.
Minister, I want to thank you very much indeed for your time, and congratulations on those legacy projects. The Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs there, Geoffrey Onyeama. Thank you very much.